Good morning, Alex and friends. I'm Grace. Today is Saturday, April 19th, 2025, and you're listening to Alex's News. The weather in Riverside will be mild today, with a high of 71.8 degrees and a low of 50.1, perfect for weekend activities outdoors. Coming up on today's episode, we'll examine the unraveling of former President Trump's promise to resolve the Ukraine war within 24 hours, looking at what happened to this bold claim and why it's proven more complicated than initially suggested. Then, we'll explore California's evolving crime politics and how they mirror changing voter concerns across the state, as public safety continues to be a key issue in local and state elections. These stories reflect the complex political landscape we're navigating in 2025, where campaign promises meet reality and voter priorities shape policy directions. We'll break down what these developments mean for you. Good morning, viewers. The Trump administration appears to be backing away from one of its most memorable campaign promises. Former President Trump repeatedly claimed during his 2024 campaign that he could end the Russia-Ukraine war within 24 hours of taking office. But now, more than 3 months into his second term, that promise seems increasingly distant. Joining us to discuss this evolving situation is our political correspondent, Ethan. Good morning, Ethan.
Good morning, Grace. You're right. We're seeing a significant retreat from what was perhaps one of Trump's boldest campaign pledges. According to reporting from ABC News, the former president began making these 24-hour resolution claims back in March 2023, telling Fox News he could solve the war almost instantly, but refusing to reveal his strategy to avoid compromising it.
And he maintained that position throughout the campaign, correct?
Absolutely. The Guardian reports that Trump doubled down on this messaging repeatedly. At a CNN town hall in May 2023, he emphasized his desire to stop the bloodshed immediately upon returning to office. By August 2024, he told a National Guard conference that he would settle the war very fast, potentially even before officially returning to the Oval Office. Business Standard noted that Trump described the negotiations as, quote, very easy, end quote.
So what's changed since he took office? Has reality set in?
You could say that's exactly what's happened, Grace. The administration has adopted a much more cautious tone. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has been particularly vocal about the challenges, even suggesting the U.S. might withdraw from negotiations if significant progress isn't made soon. The Guardian reports that the administration appears frustrated with the slow pace and complexity of the negotiations.
Has Trump himself addressed this shift in expectations?
He has, and quite remarkably. According to Business Standard, Trump's rhetoric has evolved dramatically. After initially claiming negotiations would be, quote, very easy, end quote, his special envoy set a 100-day deadline after taking office. Then, after initially indicating progress, Trump began criticizing Ukrainian President Zelensky, paused military aid, and most recently claimed his 24-hour promise was, quote, sarcastic, end quote. He's now placing blame on all parties involved, Zelensky, Putin, and Biden.
That's quite the diplomatic U-turn. What specific efforts is the administration making now to resolve the conflict?
According to Perplexity, they're pursuing several diplomatic avenues, though with notably less confidence about immediate success. They're setting tight deadlines for progress, with Rubio warning they may, quote, move on, end quote, if no clear path emerges soon. They're participating in multilateral talks in Paris and London, using both incentives and penalties to encourage agreement, maintaining communication with Russian officials, and focusing on economic matters, including a potential minerals agreement with Ukraine.
What about the specifics of any peace proposal? Do we know what the U.S. is offering?
That's the curious part, Grace. Despite all this diplomatic activity, ABC News reports that concrete details about specific proposals regarding Ukrainian sovereignty, territorial status, including Crimea or Donbass, or security guarantees remain scarce in the public domain. The Guardian notes the administration hasn't publicly specified security guarantees, post-war governance of disputed territories, conditions for sanctions relief, or NATO-related concessions.
And how are relations between Trump and President Zelensky?
In words strained, Business Standard reports that Trump reportedly berated Zelensky during a meeting and temporarily paused military aid to Ukraine. Just this month, Trump stated that Zelensky, Putin, and Biden are all to blame for the war, a significant shift from campaign rhetoric that placed responsibility primarily on the Biden administration.
It sounds like the 24-hour promise has turned into a diplomatic marathon instead of a sprint. Any final thoughts on where this is heading?
Experts quoted by The Guardian warn about a patience gap within the Trump administration. This impatience could potentially play into Putin's hands by relieving pressure on Russia and leaving Ukraine without a key ally. It seems the stark contrast between campaign promises and diplomatic reality has created a war of words that might be harder to resolve than the actual conflict itself.
Well, I guess you could say Trump's quick fix has turned into a slow burn. Thank you for that insightful analysis, Ethan. We'll continue to follow this developing story. Welcome back to our morning news. For our second story today, we turn to a significant shift in California's criminal justice landscape. Joining us is our political correspondent, Chloe Bennett. Chloe, we're seeing some interesting developments in California's approach to crime policy. What's happening?
Good morning, Grace. California is experiencing what many political analysts are calling a seismic shift in its criminal justice approach. According to reporting from LAist via Cal Matters, Republican lawmakers are seeing unprecedented success with bills aimed at toughening penalties and restricting early release programs, something that would have been unthinkable just a few years ago.
That's fascinating. What's driving this change in a state that's been known for progressive criminal justice reforms?
It appears to be a perfect storm of factors. Voter concerns about public safety have grown significantly, and the passage of Proposition 36 in 2024 marked a turning point. This proposition increased penalties for certain drug and theft crimes, essentially rolling back some earlier reforms. As Democratic Senator Jesse Oregon told LAist, there's definitely a shift in thinking among Democrats, acknowledging they need more balance in criminal justice policy.
Can you break down what Proposition 36 actually changed? I imagine many viewers might not be familiar with the specifics.
Absolutely. Proposition 36 made several key changes. It increased punishments for certain drug and theft offenses, with some felony sentences lengthened by up to 3 years. It also required certain felony sentences to be served in state prison rather than county jail. According to data from Perplexity API, this could increase California's prison population by 35% by 2029, at an estimated annual cost of $4.55 billion.
That's a substantial increase. How are Republicans capitalizing on this shift?
They're being quite strategic, Grace. Rather than pushing for sweeping changes, they're focusing on specific, often egregious examples. For instance, Republican Senator Brian Jones is targeting the elderly parole program, which allows inmates over 60 who've served significant portions of their sentences to petition for early release. His bill would exclude sex offenders from this program. The Sacramento Observer reports that these bills are gaining traction in committees and even receiving unanimous approval in some cases.
And how are Democrats responding to this pressure? Are they completely abandoning their reform agenda?
Not entirely. It's more of a recalibration than a complete reversal. Governor Gavin Newsom, a Democrat, has endorsed and signed a bipartisan package of new crime-fighting measures taking effect this year. As reported by Perplexity API, these laws give law enforcement stronger tools against retail theft, smash-and-grab robberies, and auto burglaries. One notable law, AB 2943, allows the aggregation of stolen property values across victims or counties to meet felony thresholds, a change aimed at curbing repeat offenders.
I guess you could say they're stealing a page from the Republican playbook. But seriously, are these tougher approaches actually effective?
That's where the debate gets particularly heated. Criminal justice reform advocates argue that while incarceration might temporarily remove individuals from society, it doesn't address root causes. Perplexity API reports that rehabilitation-focused approaches have proven more effective at reducing repeat offenses, but require sustained funding, which, ironically, Proposition 36 redirects to prisons. There's also significant concern that these policies disproportionately impact Black, Latino, and low-income communities.
This seems like it could have major political implications beyond just criminal justice policy.
Absolutely. A recent poll showed nearly half of likely California voters would consider supporting a Republican gubernatorial candidate in 2026, reflecting dissatisfaction with current approaches to public safety. With the election just 707 days away, crime policy will likely remain central to California politics for the foreseeable future.
Well, it seems California voters are sentenced to hear much more about this debate in the coming months. Thank you, Chloe, for that comprehensive look at California's shifting crime policies. We appreciate your insights on this complex issue.
My pleasure, Grace. Always happy to help our viewers understand these important policy shifts.
Here are some other headlines. In Arizona, Governor Katie Hobbs has vetoed a Republican-backed bill that would have mandated state and local officials cooperate fully with federal immigration enforcement, including honoring detainer requests and using federal databases. Supporters claimed the bill was needed to assist federal efforts, but Governor Hobbs cited concerns about imposing costs on local governments, maintaining immigration as a federal responsibility, and potentially harming trust between police and immigrant communities. The veto comes amid a broader political standoff over state funding. Meanwhile, there are renewed calls from church leaders to unify the date of Easter between Western and Eastern Christianity. The division stems from historical disagreements and the use of different calendars. However, next year, 2025, both traditions will celebrate Easter on the same day, April 20th. This rare alignment coincides with the 1700th anniversary of the Council of Nicaea, which first addressed the issue. Pope Francis and Orthodox Patriarch Bartholomew are urging Christians to use this opportunity to agree on a permanent common date. The Trump administration has significantly changed the federal government's primary COVID-19 information website. Content focused on public health guidance, testing, and treatments has been removed. URLs like covid.gov now redirect to a new White House page promoting the lab leak theory as the definitive origin of the virus. This new page draws heavily from a Republican congressional report and criticizes the previous administration, the World Health Organization, and Dr. Anthony Fauci. The Trump administration has also cut at least $1.6 million in federal funding for research projects focused on Native American boarding schools. These programs were working to digitize records and document the stories of abuse suffered by Indigenous children in government-run institutions. Organizations like the National Native American Boarding School Healing Coalition, which lost significant funding, say these cuts disrupt vital work needed for historical truth-telling and community healing. And in Florida, Universal Orlando Resort is set to open its massive new theme park, Universal Epic Universe, on May 22, 2025. This multi-billion-dollar expansion is the resort's largest yet and features 5 immersive lands: Celestial Park, Dark Universe, How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk, Super Nintendo World, and the Wizarding World of Harry Potter: A Ministry of Magic. With 16 attractions, advanced technology, and a new hotel, Epic Universe marks a major addition to the Orlando theme park landscape. That's all we have for now. Today's episode was made by Alexander King with Claude Sonnet 3.7, Gemini Pro 2.5 Experimental, Gemini Flash 2.0, Perplexity Sonar Pro, and Google Cloud Text-to-Speech. I hope you have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow, Alex.